Come on, everybody, let's start the show. A quick ahoy hoy and away we'll go. Richard's got a minifig and Flynn's got a pin. The gang's all here and it's time to begin. TrickyBricks roll call. Moto, Holly, Cara, and sometimes Blair, Clicky, Logan, Ms. Thing and Angela, and Thunderman Ho! Now you're here to grab your bricks and let's go to the TrickyBricks Build and Chat Show! Oh, hi everybody!
Hi!
We really are here.
We're right here. Look, it's us.
Surprise!
And real people.
How's it going, everybody? Happy Sunday. Hope you are having a good weekend so far. I know we are.
We are. It's been projects,
and giant cups of coffee, like massively giant cups of coffee.
Yeah, my Treasure of the Snake Queen cup here from Lisa Head.
No,
I mean, from
our friend Tina's mom.
From our friend Tina's
whose name is also Lisa.
That's right. Different Lisa.
Entirely.
Look at that. I'm 0 for 2. That's a sports metaphor for anyone who's into sports ball.
Okay, so everybody, why don't we kick off with inviting our guests on for today?
All right.
First up, we have our for these episodes, our special guest and also regular guest. Everybody, please welcome Moto to the stream. Hi, Moto.
Hi, Moto.
Sorry, did we surprise you? We usually don't get you. We usually don't bring you on first. So there you go.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts. By the way, I love your clicky in your pocket. That is a great signature.
Yeah. And I love your shirt. That's totally awesome.
I'm totally happy.
Cool.
I know it's gone from like splashy to shirty.
Totally.
Shirty's a thing now. Okay.
All right, and our next up, we have one of our regular guests. Please welcome to the show, Minifig Chick. Hi, Cara.
Hi, Cara.
Hey, here for the sports ball.
Yay! Sports things.
There are so many sports metaphors. My goodness.
Let's see. So we have got our. We also have our regular special guest. There's so many denominations here.
Associate independent producer.
And I always actually every time I put this, I do write internet sensation, but I always want to write and introducing because he kind of is like the and introducing. Everybody, please welcome Bricks O'Brien.
Oh,
hi, Brian.
Hello. Happy
How's it
Sunday,
going?
everybody. Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
And I see somebody else just popped into the green room, looking like she just got out of the shower. It is, it is Holly. Hi, Holly.
Ahoy.
Sorry, I saw you fussing. I was like, oh, and she looked.
Shushing. We've determined the word.
It is a late morning for me. Sorry, guys.
Just
still in vacation mode.
Just got off your Veronica Lake photo shoot and had to brush the hair out of that one eye.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
and all three people who
No one
chat will
knows
know who that is.
She was a
Brian
person.
is already confused and Googling it.
She was beautiful.
Thank you. I accept.
Queen of the side part.
And then also we have a very extra special guest for today. Everybody from season 1 of Lego Masters, part of the season 1 Lego Masters family. It's Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Good morning, Aaron.
Hi.
Bricks fam. Good to see everybody.
Oh, it's good to see you. And we got to see you in person
That's
other
right.
day,
Yeah,
which was awesome.
For those of you who didn't know, Richard and Flynn and I, Richard and Flynn are in the Bay Area of California, and I was living there until yesterday. So for one of my last days in town, and for the episode we're going to be discussing today, Richard and Flynn came over to my house. We had a little dinner party and viewing party.
With your family.
It was awesome.
My family, yeah, they got to meet all my family, and it was really super fun. And now I'm calling in from Austin on my way to the East Coast again. This is a little pit stop, and sadly no Lego with me, but the rest of them fiddling around on my behalf.
Well, we have plenty of Lego to talk about today, so that's that will be fun. That'll be good.
You know, you made up for it the other night when we were having our amazingly delicious dinner. Hogwarts mini mini or micro scale Hogwarts was in a beautiful vitrine right behind the table, just overlooking the proceedings. It was
That's right.
very romantic.
Brian is now Googling vitrine.
Yeah, I mean, Sacramento demands dust-free storage. You know, you gotta do it right.
Brian, I always think of the what is it? Are they
Toonces,
pelicans?
the driving cat?
No, from Animal Crossing. There's the one like pelican that runs the airport,
right.
and whenever you go, you're like, I'm flying away.
The dodos.
The dodo, sorry, and he
Yeah.
does this like about 3 inches above the keyboard, just like
Wilbur?
one of my favorites. So, we are going to be. I mean, there's actually not a whole lot of Lego news to talk about at the moment. So we are, after we do our initial beginnings, we're going to dive right into talking about this week's episode of Lego Masters. Now, I want to preface this by saying that the Lego Masters schedule is about to get even more confusing. So we just had a week off, which actually we were supposed to get together with Aaron the week before, and then discovered that there was no episode.
We decided that if there's not Lego Masters, why bother seeing each other?
It part of the appeal.
We would just sit there and stare at the corner, right?
Yeah. So we they skipped a week, and now we had an episode this past week. Now they're skipping a week again.
Yeah, they're skipping a week again due to sports.
This next week. Then there will be one episode, and then they're skipping 2 weeks for the Olympics.
Yep.
Oh, that's too bad.
So everyone could get a book. You could get a book by Pavel Sariel or Yoshihiro Isagawa and read all about Lego and Technic while you wait for the next episode.
So just putting that out there.
Yeah,
everybody.
this season will conclude in September of 2036.
Wow.
At this rate.
Wow, it's gonna. Did you photograph some holographic episodes?
Amazing. But yeah, really odd timing for that. I'm really surprised that they would go like that many times. Like I can see 1 week here or something like that, but almost 3 in a row and at different timings. Yeah.
It's like sabotaging the flow of the season, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's preempt sports with Lego Masters. Depends on the sport, I suppose, but yes. Yeah.
We will be back to your Super Bowl in just a minute after this word from Will Arnett.
There you go. So, hey, why don't we, I'm actually going to real quick, why don't we kick off with pins while I do a thing. So that's okay. If you don't have a pin, it's all right. You know, we just go around. It's okay, Brian.
Every week it surprises me. I have pins. I'll be back.
It's because we've skipped a week and then gone back a week again and then not a week and then a week.
It's the formatting.
Yeah.
I had the coolest pin yesterday before we moved because we went to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I had this amazing octopus pin that was
nice.
Monterey Bay Aquarium, and I left that in California. So, gosh,
no worries.
I'm envisioning it right now. It's amazing.
it had a little thing on the bottom that said congratulations because my wife and I, her aunt is a volunteer there, so she got us in for free and got us the cool pins that were like congrats on your wedding or whatever. So
how fun.
Yeah,
very good. All right, Cara, we always kick off with you because she's always got one prepared. And here we go. Cara, what have you got for us today?
I've got Chippendale Rocket to the Moon.
That's cute.
How fun.
I love that. Like with the little ticket, like the old school tickets. Wow. Nice.
Dale is having a blast.
Right?
Very, very cool. Blast. Har, har, har. Rocket blast. All right. Let's see who we got next. Holly, what you got for us today?
All right. I think I've shown this one before, but we were hanging out with some Star Wars nerds last night, some friends of my husband. And these were pins that we made for Star Wars Celebration one year, and we were
haven't shown these before.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like an early bird special. Like each day of the convention, you're supposed to try and collect one of these to make a set.
Wow.
How fun.
Yeah, and so we're probably going to continue this theme for the next Star Wars celebration. So that's on my mind right now.
I have those actual toys, as I'm sure you do in your house. Yeah, I figured as much. Brian, with the surprise pin, what have you got for us, man?
I actually have a Lego-centric pin today. I bought this a while ago. It's a 1980-something space program pin.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
Very
I was
nice.
buying a T-shirt, and then I tossed that into my car. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. So yeah, I got that.
Very cool. Nicely done. All right, and what we got, Moto?
Yeah, so instead of a pin, I have a keychain, and the reason I wanted to show the keychain is Small Art Director made this for me.
Oh,
Oh, so awesome!
So it's supposed to be an audio speaker.
I totally thought speaker right
Yeah,
away.
that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah,
of right away.
yeah. So when I start to go to conventions and he misses me, he's going to call me on this. He said.
Oh my god, that is so
hopefully-
adorable!
Hopefully
I can't even with that.
that's a good substitute for a pin, I think.
Yeah,
it sure
absolutely,
is.
Absolutely. All right, what have you got,
Wearables.
Richard?
Well, I'm no fool, no siree. We got Jiminy Cricket and a hidden Mickey pin right there.
Very cool. And I have now. I know I've shown this one before, but it's been a while. This is a favorite. I got to make sure I have it the right way around. This is an awesome favorite pin of mine. It's got this great silhouette, and then it opens up.
Yeah. Captain
Love
of
that.
Bat. Captain of Bat.
That's so cool.
I love this one.
Dang, that's amazing.
Formats.
It's a good one. Oh, and we had great fun last weekend. Robert and Cara came over, and we played a round of Villainous. Which was a lot of fun. If you've not played that before, it's a really fun. It was a super fun game where you get to play Disney villains.
And you get to thwart the efforts of the pesky heroes.
Yes, it's a good time. All right, so
over
hey,
there?
while we are here, why don't we see who all is here today and give a quick shout out to everybody who's in the stream. Let's see. It's always a challenge getting to this.
Box.
Yeah. Here we go.
Holly, I love your T-shirt.
Thanks.
Monorail.
Oh, yes.
That's another T Public, right?
I don't remember where this came from, and I kind of thought it was a Kevin Hinkle tee, but I'm not
It is,
entirely sure.
yeah.
Oh,
Is
it's
it?
a
Okay.
Hinkle.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for verifying that.
original. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Can we see that again? Sorry, I was looking the other way. Wow, it's
Monorail?
really cool. Love it. All right, well, let's see who's here real quick. Hello to Abby the Brick Squirrel is here. Apples is here from Europe. Beta Brick, I don't know if we've seen you here before. Welcome.
Brickaroo Bonsai.
Brickman Mosaics Art. Chris, it's coming home, England Chalice. Wow, it's a lot of England in one go. Darren Siegfried is here. Fabufan MKE, The Greebling Wizard, Heather Mraz, Hell's Bells, Hooded One, Joel Marbella, John Luttrell, and
Johnny
Vicky.
Cat
Hi.
is here.
Johnny Cat is here. Lisa Head, Matthew Builds Bricks, Minifig Nick, Monica Berry, and Moto. They're a little nice and rhyme. Rob Zaccardi and the Zaccardis, Lana, Elena, and Vanessa. Hello. We've got Monica Berry is here. Oh, I said Monica Berry. Sorry. Robin Eklund is here. Shane Levan, Smoke Up Johnny, Spaceman Jonathan. Wyatt Builds is here. And also, I know Kim is here because I saw her here early. Zarakino. Kim. And hello to Wilfred, wherever you may be. I know he posted on Facebook that he hasn't been able to be around much lately, but he misses us, and we miss you too.
We saw a bunch of Tricky Luggers yesterday.
We did in our Tricky Lug meeting. I see Brickham's Den is here. Lori Not Lisa. Hello, Lori Not Lisa. How's it going? Welcome. Gosh, and I think I'm trying to see if anybody else is rolling in the end. They all kind of come into the list. So,
Spaceman Jonathan. That's not one I recognize.
Actually, he has been coming lately and did a great build for the micro scale challenge that we just did. So
I was blown away by the micro scale challenges. I think it was really just so many high quality, inventive, Just really beautiful pieces.
PT McEwen is here. Cowboy Cornado. Hoy howdy. So, all right, something just happened, you guys. There is a special surprise guest has appeared. Kind of like Pokemon. Everybody, please welcome to the stream. A wild Randall has appeared.
Yes.
Hey, Randall.
What's up, y'all?
Hey,
Hi.
Randall. How are you?
Sarita says, "What's good?"
Oh, very, very good. Is she around?
No, she's got calls and such at the moment. Yeah,
she is a busy. Well, I'm so glad that you could come on and join us today. And also, by the way, folks. During the down weeks when there's not a Lego Masters episode, we are going to be having some of the contestants on for the show just to kind of like have a hangout and have fun. So that should be a good time. And Randall will be joining us next week.
Yes.
So very excited about that.
Is this your build room we're seeing in the background there?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Minifig stuff up there, stack-ons up there, and bins in my shame pile under the desk that you can't see.
It's always good that the camera only sees so much, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially in this format, we get a nice like rectangle.
Line up all the minifig cases that beautifully because I've got 12 of them that I'm gonna have to hang up at some point, and you did a great job putting them in a line like that.
So I actually saw your setup when you posted it in your stories, actually, Aaron. So you stacked it like that, and I was like, I wonder if I could do it that way. And so you were actually the inspiration.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so glad I was able to share. I mean, those cases are so cool. They're like, the silhouette is great. They keep your prize minifigs clean. Like,
you guys are going to start a minifig display case, Cold War now, because it's like Aaron, then Randall, then Aaron, then Randall.
I don't know, about a dozen, so that I can when I get to my new studio, whenever this is going to be, I can arrange them in myriad ways, whether it's 2x6 or 6x2 or 4x3, whatever works best for the wall that I have, So, but I love the line; that looks really clean.
Yeah, I noticed Minifig Chick and Holly are keeping their piece. They're both definitely minifig and minifig container collectors.
Well, I think Holly probably wins the award for like the most epic minifigure display. So
yeah, she's basically got a wing of the Louvre.
Is it like on your Instagram anywhere that I can go look, or anywhere else?
I probably should post something just for the minifigs. I have. I should. I keep meaning to do that. I keep meaning to post like pictures of the Lego layer, and it never feels finished. So I'm never. It's
never gonna be finished.
No, it's never gonna be.
Disneyland's not finished either, but people take pictures of it.
Yeah, seriously.
That's a good point. Yeah, coming soon.
So real quick before we dive into the breakdown of the episode, I wanted to mention that as a lot of you know, I do a Tuesday Twitch stream as part of a raid train with a bunch of other really amazing folks. We got Jake Studs, April B, Dan Between the Bricks. We've got Billsy, Rick Sapiens, and Supar Computer. And this month, we are raising money for the American Cancer Society in memory of a friend of a few of our raid trainers who passed away recently. We started off with a very modest goal and smashed the goal, like doubled it. We've now raised over $5,000 for the American Cancer Society. Really honored to be able to do that. And we're doing it all month. And there is a link down in the description of this video that you can click on if you would like to help out and donate to the American Cancer Society. And I've got my Kelsey bracelet on today.
And we both have friends and family who struggled with and also survived cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, if you get a chance and you're able, please go ahead and donate to this fantastic cause. And we will be, again, if you are like there on the raid train, there'll be lots of opportunities there for the rest of the month to raise money too. I'm crossing my fingers, and everybody in the stream
is starting to do all of these, like, if we hit X dollars, I will do this thing. So Rick, we already passed the goal for Rick to dye his beard red and green for his Christmas in July that he's going to do. And I guess April has a Sasquatch outfit that she premiered on one of her streams.
Wow.
She's going to be doing another Sasquatch stream. And I've been trying to figure out what I can do. Like, what's my stretch goal like thing going to be? And I'm not quite sure yet.
Oh, I have some ideas.
Oh dear. Clean the house. We will
Don't shave for a month. No shave for a month.
I know. Flynn grows
It would be interesting.
like mean mutton chops.
Oh, maybe I'll grow the. I think the gold things are usually a little more instantaneous than that. I was thinking I might
a year later.
I might do my go for full like Doctor Strange, like really just like bleach out my white walls and then like do the rest of it in a dark color. That could be a fun.
That would be nice.
Well, that's good for you. That's not incentivizing anybody else. That's like, you're like, oh, if we hit so and so amount of dollars, I will buy myself the Millennium Falcon. You know what I mean? Like,
I like
gotta be something we all want to see. That's, I don't know, whatever.
You really want to see that? People want to see that? I
don't know.
Let's see what the chat says.
I would question their judgment if that was something they really wanted to see. But
Look up Johnny says go full Wolverine.
Oh, there you go. That's what we want.
I've done it before. It wouldn't be the first time. I used to have
Logan gets a cake. Oh, jeez, poor
used to have
Logan.
massive sideburns, and I actually just ran across. You know how like now, if you have an iPhone, now your phone does that thing like Facebook does, where they're like, "Hey, remember this picture from 500 years ago?"
Yeah.
Google does that too.
It was me in full like supervillain mode. I had like a curly mustache with a super pointy beard, and like my white walls were looking pretty fly. Like, yeah, it was a embarrassing and memory filled photo. Everybody, we've got
Wow, it's a full house.
It is a full house today. Everybody, please welcome to the stream, Regular Blair.
Blair.
Hey, Blair.
Did somebody say villain beard and curly mustache?
Yeah.
I heard the calling.
That was part of the segue. Yeah. So Gary Smith says, I would like you to organize a musical with the raid train. Oops. Like a musical with the raid train performers. They sing the assigned parts you edit together. Oh,
wow.
I'm not sure about the singing talents of the other folks on the stream, but I'll see what they say about that. It says it was suggested that you dress up like you're in a barbershop quartet and sing for us again.
There you go.
We can combine them. I'll dress up like Wolverine and sing some songs on the ukulele.
There you go.
And sing.
Do the X-Men intro on the ukulele.
Here's my hot take on talent shows. Not everyone, myself included, can reliably carry a tune, but everyone can hand dance.
Yeah, everybody.
Right? Everyone just does a hand dance together.
Oh dear.
All right, friends. So let's get down to breaking down this episode. It is episode 5, and surprise and fun, I have finally gotten permission to use the photographs of the builds on the show. It was a long road to get here.
Yay.
Although I gotta say, it's probably a good idea that we didn't have photos in the hats episode, because the photos they sent were maybe some of the worst photos of Lego models I've ever seen. It was alarming. Like Richard and Dave's amazing, like that bright pink thing that they made.
Hat.
Yeah, the carnival hat. It looked like it was gray. Like the picture was that terrible. So,
but better this episode.
Thankfully, they stepped it up this episode. Although there was a glaring omission. In my personal opinion, I hope you're listening. Glaring omission. Now, I'm going to get these pictures up here so we can start talking. And I know that Randall is not able to be here with us the whole time. So I think that we should start off with Randall and Cyrita's build so that he can tell us a little bit about the process that they went through making this. So let me get, sorry, I'm going to do a little bit of
Screen juggling.
Screen juggling. Exactly right. Screen juggling. Sharing a screen. I've heard you can do that.
Like that.
There we go.
There it is.
Yay.
Hard.
All right.
Wow, we're all microfigs now.
Indeed. Okay.
Colorful.
So, Randall, you and Cyrita did a balloon for this episode. Now, I will say let's talk about the concept of the episode. There was a single Technic brick hanging at an angle, I might add, off of like a string or a wire, and then everybody had to build onto that and create a floating model, which I gotta say gave me anxiety like the moment that I thought that's what it was going to be.
Okay, Randall, I have a hard-hitting question here. I noticed 2 different methods of suspension in the episode for these bricks. They did a close-up beautiful shot of this brick that was suspended by 2 lines straight up that had like little separate connectors. And then they had these ones where the line is weaving in and out of the Technic brick. How was it working with that brick with this line weaving in and out of it and still trying to look how level your balloon is?
So the thing we had to consider was how to connect it at the ends, because that wire went through the brick, but it wasn't going through like the holes at the end of the brick. So we're able to connect to the ends and build out if we needed to, which is what we ended up doing. In the process of doing that, there wasn't too much. Well, what we wanted to do originally was, if there was any issues with counterbalance, to build clouds around the balloon to have more of a scene around it. But additionally, in building out, I actually used a technique similar to what I used during the Tower Challenge, and building and connecting Technic bricks in a perpendicular manner to build down and connect down to the basket, so that the center of gravity was either at the level of the brick or higher, so that the weight wasn't heavy, below the brick.
Using pin connections for other Technic bricks?
Yes. So pin connections. So I actually have, I happen to have like this mock-up of what I did.
Here, let me put you on the big screen real quick.
Yeah. So this is essentially what I did in the inside of the tower.
Oh.
Yeah. So about like every 9 bricks or something like that connected to a hole. So the math lined up. And so I just used this same thing to connect down from the brick and then eventually connect it to, the basket at the bottom.
Now, here's a question. That Technic math is sometimes difficult to get down. Is that something that you were already familiar with before the show, or did you have to learn that on the fly? Because that's that Lego math, that Technic math can be tough.
I knew that before the show. I love math, and I tell Sarita all the time, like, the math got a math whenever we do stuff. Because if it doesn't, then things, go off kilter. So usually I was on Moto Stream yesterday. I didn't say it, but I usually build things in multiples of 2, 4, or 6 based on the Lego math in the system. And Technic kind of aligns to that. And so I was connecting and then just, repeating as we went down.
Very cool. Now, I have a question. With having watched the episode, I noticed that you built the bottom separately from the top, and then there was this moment of trying to get the 2 things to connect together. Now, was that a product of each of you trying to just build separate parts so that you could get it done faster, or what was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so this is probably the most salient example of our different approaches in building. Sarita's very task oriented, and I'm always considering like the totality of the composition and what adds up to that, instead of doing a lot of things and then seeing how you put them together at the end. And she was also building the top and was doing it in such a way that it was built at an angle. And so it was going to be weird to build from the bottom of what she was doing at that same angle and not get in her way. And so that was that was a risk that I took to build it separately and try to, marry it in the middle.
Very cool. Now,
it seemed pretty, the way it was edited, that seemed pretty stressful. Like there was a lot of focus placed on that. It seemed like it was a process that took a while. Was that had to be a stressful moment in the episode for you?
Yeah, I think this was one thing that was another risk, like building something as complex as a spherical shape like this. In the time allotted, I think there were 10 hours in this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let me pull this out.
I'm impressed.
This is more than 10 hours. That's more than 10 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
The clock has always an issue. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
So do we?
That's a huge sphere to undertake in that amount of time. Like, I gotta say, like, it's so impressively large. And while I was watching you try and sandwich that bottom part onto the top part, I mean, I'm someone who, I've had to rebuild or rework mocks while holding one piece, a heavy piece in one hand, and you're like stuffing other pieces up inside it. And just, I think a lot of us experienced builders could really feel that moment of like trying to marry these two pieces midair. Gives you that convention floor feel, all the doors are going to open in like 20 minutes and I just got to get this thing to come together. So,
that's a really good way of putting it. Yes.
Yeah. The pressure is on. Yeah. It was amazing to see.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to say while, we took the picture away though, was I love that picture because while there are so many colors that could have been on your table and used in the build, the focus you had on that color scheme and that photograph, look at that. I mean, that just screams Lego. Like you've got the basic colors on display and then like with the color pops in your outfits, it's a fantastic image. So it's like really cool that it worked out that way.
No, color blocking on a sphere is not easy.
Right.
No, it's not. That diagonal, thing was something that I started on purpose to not just have, blocked, but actually have it moving in that type of direction. But over time, as we split, the division of labor, it ended up not being as smooth as I wanted, just in an effort to like deliver something, I think.
So sculpting a sphere of that size with bricks and plates in the amount of time you had, impressive enough, and adding a design element is also, even the thought to go to do that at all, it's like very impressive. Because I probably would have just like tried to just make it happen first,
right?
So, but now before we move on to the next build, do any of our panelists have any questions for Randall about the build or just the challenge in general, as somebody who was there trying to hang things off of a hanging brick? I don't know that we could. I mean, we would have done it, of course, but it would have had major anxiety about it.
Well, I have a certain amount of trust in Lego that when I push on it, it's not going to move out of the way.
Right.
Surprise.
I have to say too, during this episode, it's not a spoiler, but there was a point in which I didn't have a boot, and there was a point in which I did have a boot on my foot, and in the middle of that, like I had all the sympathy and was thinking about Summer from the Australian season. During the hanging brick episode as well. So I was like, man,
oh my goodness,
hats off to her. Like, I hope she's okay. All of that. So
wow,
yeah.
This was one of my favorite challenges from the Australian season that when we saw season 2 of Australia, I was so jealous. This is like the coolest challenge ever. And I'm really glad it got to happen on US. I mean, the builds we saw.
Yeah, it was really good.
It lets you build in a way that, you can't do any other time, which is one of the cool things about Lego Masters, just watching it as well as having done it, is like the opportunities to build something that you're going to blow up because it's not your collection. You know what I mean? To build something that's hanging or all these cool things. These are my favorite episodes to watch, are the ones where it's like building in a way that you could never do at home. which is super fun. And
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's take a look. Excuse me. At some more of the builds. So this was this was Maria and Philip's entry, the sea turtle with a lighthouse on the back, which I just thought was so delightful. Like what a fun, very imaginative use of the challenge.
And it's even a more colorful piece than it looks like in this photograph. There's some shine on the front of it, but it's really colorful.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Brian, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I really like what they did here. And a thing that I noticed when they were actually telling the story about this build, they said that the turtle was like floating over the coral. And that was the angle they came with. And then I found it funny because the judges said it looks like the coral is coming out of the turtle. And then if I were in that moment, I mean, I can say everything I wanted to, right? But I would say, yeah, the coral is coming from the turtle to reinvigorate the oceans because of pollution or like something. That angle, I think that angle would have been like the perfect bow on that. And then that little critique the judges had to pull from this build would have been immediately eliminated. And otherwise, it's a great build with a great message. I think if they went with that too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one a lot. Holly, what are your thoughts on this one?
It was kind of tough for me to get past the coral looking a bit like entrails, which I think is kind of goes to that comment of it looks like it's coming out of the turtle. So that's kind of unfortunate because otherwise it had a lot. You know what? I think Jamie's comment was that had they built it out a little bit instead of it sort of just hanging down, I think it would have sold that effect a little bit better because it was a really good concept and it's a great build. That was just sort of that initial knee-jerk reaction that I couldn't quite get past.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the color combinations. I love their trees look really nice. Mm-hmm. I love the plants going up the side of the building, and I really like the treatments on this. I think they're really.
I was going to say the windows and the flipper decorations really used that new dots tile elements that we had access to that the first season didn't.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Aaron and Richard and I were talking about that we would have just like given a limb to have like to have dots in our things. It would have been so nice.
Yeah. Richard, I think Richard and Flynn, like, or I think it must have been just Flynn. Like when we were watching this together, you literally gasped at the windows. You were like, "Oh, those windows!" Like, yes, it was a great detail. I mean, I feel like I really love the concept of the build. Looking at it and looking at how it developed over the course of the episode, obviously you can never really tell from the edit, but it seems to me like they spent a lot more time on the top than on the bottom, and probably the coral and the turtle and things like that, they just feel a little bit more rushed. Probably the clock, that's the kind of thing that happens with the clock where you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I only have 3 hours to add all these other parts, and that might have happened. I mean, Marie and Philip can tell me for sure one way or the other if they ever want to let me know, but that's the vibe I got, which is because the lighthouse is so beautifully detailed and the turtle just feels a little bit less polished. Well, because the lighthouse looks so good.
This is different from anything that we had to do in that it had to be viewed from 360, right? Like it had to be able to be viewed all the way around. And as anybody who builds for a convention knows, there's always a display side. And then there's like always the one that you put in the back so that nobody can see it. But all right, let's move on to the next build. Okay, so this was Mark and Steven's Floating Islands, which was a popular theme this time around.
I wanted to say something about the photography of Lego Masters, the beauty shots of the pieces. Obviously, they're extremely skilled photographers and camera people, and they have a great lighting crew. But for some reason, the lighting design of Lego Masters puts this bright orange backlight on every single piece. So no matter what color you make your piece, it's overwhelmingly orange from that blacklight. And I think in this case, it cuts out some of the contrast in the photo.
Yeah, agreed.
It's that like they're hovering above a sea of gold, shimmering gold sort of effect, which works really well on the show. But you're right, in the still photography, it kind of washes out a lot of the color.
Yeah. Well, and this is really beautiful. And of course, these guys played to their strengths in this one. This was something that they're familiar with. I know that they've done floating islands before. That's been like the thing that they are into. Randall, I'm curious, when I know when we were on the show, there's always one or two builds that you like look across the room and you're like, oh wow, this is like this is particularly impressive. Was there a build in this one where you just kind of like looked up and were like, oh, that's going to be some competition?
Actually, this one for sure. Mark and Stevens, they were building across from us, and we were seeing them build the gray out first. And so I figured it was going to be something to do with like earthly, material, and then seeing the color burst from that and see that contrast with the gray. I was like, okay, this is really good composition and different forms that they put in the build. And I think the other thing that I was looking at from the other side was probably the one we just looked at, Maria and Philip, because at first I wasn't sure what they were building, but then once I saw the form take shape and the lighthouse begin and the turtle on top under that, I thought that was really good concept.
Yeah, very cool. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this one?
Oh man, I mean, of the builders on the season, I knew Mark and Steven's work probably the best going in. So it's like you say, I mean, they were playing to their strengths in some regard. I mean, Steven has done so many floating islands and Mark has done so many castles and medieval structures. But for me, this is a really smart and successful execution of a more like AFOL mindset meeting the Lego Masters mindset. Because I feel like I've talked about this before. I talked about it with Richard and Flynn when we were together, but it's like building on Lego Masters, there's a different set of criteria and a different standard of excellence and focus than you get from something like a convention build or even a build on Instagram, where in in a lot of AFOL circles, people focus on, say, replication or realism, and there's a lot of skill that goes into building in that way, but that's not necessarily a style that is rewarded in the same way on Lego Masters. Lego Masters is much more about color, vibrancy, storytelling,
and size.
I feel like Mark and Steven did a really good job, not just listening to the Brick Masters, but also internalizing feedback that they'd gotten in previous challenges around bringing that playfulness, bringing the color, bringing the big story details. And I think, as much as a floating island is something they're comfortable with, I've never seen them do anything with these huge stylized leaves,
right?
Little troll figures. They're very much minifig scale builders most of the time. So I really appreciated just, in terms of like from the perspective of someone who's adapting their skills to Lego Masters, this was one of their more successful builds in that regard. And I think I'm really happy that they got that validation from the Brick Masters, because I think it lets them know they're on the right track for just knowing what the show's asking for and how to turn their prodigious building skills towards this particular competition.
Well, didn't Amy tell them specifically? And I thought it was sort of confusing advice that they really seemed to have made good on. And that was to, I don't remember the exact wording, let their imaginations soar, just let themselves go some. And it does seem to have more fun.
In the in our season, in the Storybook Challenge, I mean, Christian and I, for instance, we got dinged for executing the story too literally. We were like, here are the elements from the story. We made a Taker Waker Witch. We made horses, whatever. We did a very literal interpretation. But then other teams really thought more outside the box, and those builds were more successful in that challenge. So I think in this sense, Mark and Steven, they let their imaginations run so wild. They thought bigger than they might normally, and were just a little more zany, which is super. It turned out amazingly well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kara, what do you think about this one?
I don't think I can add anything of substance to what's already been said. Honestly, it's one thing I really, start to get from all of the builds that people do is what you talk about sometimes, and that's just having these repetitive elements, these repetitive patterns, and it just stands out to me as being a really effective technique that I think I need to work on as a builder, as myself.
Yep. How fast can you make 16 leaves?
Exactly.
Well, it's smart for a number of reasons with the Lego Masters format. One, it saves you time. You only have to design something once, and you get to build it a lot more times. But also, it automatically is going to give your build a sense of unity by having that repeating motif. So it's a win-win. Honestly, if anyone out there is thinking of going on Lego Masters who hasn't been there already, just do repeating shapes. Use that technique. It'll save you time. It'll make your build look more unified. That's a really smart call.
And it went through to the gnomes too. I mean, the gnomes were so cute, and they just had to dial in that one perfect character iterization, and then they could multiply it, give them different colored hats and outfits, and they populated the whole thing. And I mean, their character, while small, like it really stood out as a huge part of the overall build. And like you said, being minifig builders and knowing the limitations of the minifigs on set, especially. It was really great to be able to create a character that was small, repeatable, and very recognizable too.
Awesome. All right. Well, now before we move on to the next build, it is time for the pause that refreshes. Everybody, that's right. It is Logan Cookie time.
Hi, buddy.
And here he is,
right there.
the real star of the show.
Yeah.
It's Logan. Hi, buddy.
Say hi to everyone.
Gosh. Hi, Logan.
Hi.
He has choreography now.
He can do hand dancing.
That was a hard one.
I know. I almost took my finger.
Good boy.
Logan bit my finger. Can that go viral now?
Oh my God.
There you go. Hi. What a cute boy. That's right, Logan. And it looks like we've got some other things here. We've got a sheep eating
Cookie time.
We've got Skittles. Hi, Skittles, the world's most famous puppet dog. We've got let's see, what do we got here? We have a flying horse eating something, and then we've got little Mario.
Oh, wow.
You are ridiculous. It's
a hand
That's all I
puppet.
have. I don't have anything with me.
It's a hand puppet and a finger puppet.
It's all good. It's all good.
And something ate Randall. Oh wait, no, there he is.
I'm back.
That is like, Aaron, that is some Rothko level minimalism right there. That is.
I did go to theater school, so I learned a little bit about puppetry as well.
And that has been Logan Cookie Time. Woohoo! All right. So let us move on to the next build. Now, this one, especially in terms of size, it was extremely outrageous, I gotta say.
I think if I had been at another build table and seen those rectangles starting to go up, I would have been worried initially.
Yeah.
Yes, that is factual. Yes.
So this is from Zach and Randall, Zach and Wayne, who we've seen some really incredible builds from this season. Like they are so on it. I'm always amazed. Now, squids are popular. Yes, Aaron?
Yes. Hey, you know why? Repeatable shapes.
Repeatable shapes.
Yeah,
There
those
you go.
tentacles, they just made probably, 50 of those segments and linked them all together. I mean, you can easily.
Right. We talk about those repeatable shapes a lot. So Moto, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the scale of this thing kind of blew my mind. That happens often when I see Zach and Wayne put something together. I loved the truss work that they had going on, and then realized that once again these guys are just going to blast something out incredibly fast.
Yeah,
and I wasn't surprised it was in the top 2. I think it just came in second due to the amount of detail and just overall composition of Mark and Stevens. But this thing is just mind blowing that this whole thing is done in 10 hours. That kind of still floors me.
Oh dear.
Well,
Oh wow, Shane.
I'm just imagining.
I'm spreading around.
I'm just imagining right now, they've got the whale done and they mount the head of the squid, and then trying to keep it balanced while draping all those legs on had to have been really challenging.
No,
but it's also genius because they're flexible, and then you're able to sort of move things one way or another just a little bit until it all balances out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but by then that thing had so much mass. I don't think, just the raw inertia of it was going to probably keep it pretty stable. But for me, what I thought was really, really clever was, you have to nail the eyes of the creature on this one. If the eyes were just a little bit off or a little bit out of position, it probably would have spoiled the entire belt.
And that's from memory, right? That's not, they didn't have reference photos for where a whale's eye goes.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
But to have the little eyebrow shape over the, just those couple little pieces really made a huge difference in this model, the way the squid and the whale eyes were executed.
Yeah, I wish you could see the whale's eye better in this one. I will say I was a little concerned initially that it was just going to be a big gray, like submarine of a piece, and I thought they did a great job detailing it. Now, Randall, I'm curious, as somebody who was there, how big actually was this? Because it's kind of hard to tell scale. Would you say like 2-3 feet long? What?
No, I've heard it was 5'6".
5'6".
Told me.
What?
Yeah. 5'6".
It started out as again, as Aaron was saying, repeatable shapes of them building. You saw it in the show, like the inside of it, like squares essentially. And I was curious as to how they were going to build it, and then they kept adding onto it over time, and then it eventually got to be as big as it was.
Yeah, they were planning on 3 feet something, and then it wound up being 5'6". So basically, it's bigger than most children. If you think about hanging like a kid in the air.
So that, to me, that means there must be a major buff structural beam along the top back of like the spine of the whale. Has to be a really strong beam.
Right. There was. Yeah, it was a beam at top of the squares. Yep.
Yeah, I have to say, and I know a lot of it was. I know this was editing, but like the way that it was edited, it made it seem like this was like they built this in the first 5 minutes. Like they built like that giant thing, because every time they showed it, it was always like the giant skeleton, always the giant skeleton. I really would have liked to have seen a little bit of the earlier like part, and like you were saying, like I would have liked to have seen that structure, like what they actually used.
Yeah. What's crazy with them though is, I don't know, Randall, to me, when I was looking at the dragons or the hat or pick your thing, there would be like the skeleton, and all of a sudden you turn around an hour later and it was nearly finished. I mean, they are incredibly fast.
Yeah, same thing with the hat. I think at a certain point they were doing some brick bending. Then all of a sudden it disappeared. Is that right? And then built something else entirely.
No. They had the brick bending, but as they added, they just knocked out stuff, and once they added all the details on, all of a sudden it just was like,
that's what it was.
Also, it was just like bang! All of a sudden, it was there. It was insane.
I felt like in season 1 that Tyler and Amy were very surprising as well. They'd be sort of like a table with some things on it and some things on it and some things on it. And then they would assemble all of their multiple parts, and suddenly there was a huge structure.
Yeah, it takes a lot of like planning maybe and forethought, or just like a really good communication among the team for them to be able to make all those smaller parts that are going to unify so well. Same thing with Tyler and Amy, same thing. I mean, Tyler obviously, he's been building forever, and he was able to, train Amy up to that level too. and they just knew what they were doing from square one. They took all that time to plan, but in the future part of the challenge, I mean, that, made it could come together really fast and really well.
Right.
I feel like this build is like probably the biggest thing, maybe the biggest thing we'll ever see on Lego Masters in this time frame. I just don't know how anyone could build something this large ever again with only 10 hours.
Pretty epic.
I don't know. Give Mark a call.
Yeah. He sure does build tall. All right. So let's moving on. This is this was
talk about building tall.
Yeah, this was Richard and Dave's piece. Now, unfortunately, this is a little. I'm gonna try and pull in a little bit here so we can sort of see here. Now,
there's the giant.
Now, again, here we go with the repeatable shapes. Right, for the Beanstalk part. But what I find amazing about this is the balance. Like, this is showing some serious, like, science balance. What do you think, Brian? What do you think about this Jack and the Beanstalk here?
They always have a great message in all of their builds every single time, and that adds so much more to the whole concept. And I felt for them when it was dropping at the bottom, that the stalk, because that's a lot of weight to carry down onto that bottom portion. And I didn't know if I had seen it in other builds, so I was curious if they were using ball joints, like the larger Bionicle-esque ball joints, to keep things connected, and that can only hold so much weight. But they really made do with what they had, and that buildable giant in the sky, I would have loved to have seen that. Not a critique with the build, I just would like to see it full, like, standing, just like what would that look like, because it's such a unique build in that aspect too. I really like this one.
Yeah, and you're right. I really love the message of, like, the giant sharing his wealth, but to have, so that everybody could have some. You're right. Amazing message.
And I can see what the judges were talking about with the clouds not being as fluffy, especially toward the bottom portion of it. But I think when you look at that giant, and especially like the goose and all those little details, it just your eyes are drawn to that more so. So I really loved it.
I'm thinking of balancing a scale and how you can just add a penny on this side and a penny on that side. And I wonder if they weren't doing that with gold bars.
I think they were doing that. So Dave told us last night that they were stacking coins to get the balance of the piece of work. But also, it was very much balancing a scale, but also it was the distribution of wealth that was bringing balance back to the world.
Yeah,
was the core message. So they were physically placing coins to balance it, but also metaphorically balancing coins to bring the wealth distribution back in line with what it should be. Nice. So that's a very thoughtful, kind of amazing note that Dave gave us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's like Brian was saying. That's one of the things I just appreciate so much about them, is that they really do put these positive messages into all of their stuff, and it's so thoughtful. And to know that it even like goes into the actual building part is even more epic. Holly, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what everybody else said. They're really good storytellers, more than anything, and I think that's helped them tremendously. It's kind of an interesting concept to me that they went with Jack and the Beanstalk, because, like, the beanstalk grows out of the ground, and I kind of get that they were, trying to go with like what's coming up through the cloud portion of it. It's just like, it's sort of abrupt, right? Like the way that it sort of ends there. I kind of wish that it was going through like another cloud or something to sort of.
What I would have loved to have seen, maybe if there were smaller vines kind of coming off of it, so it looks like it kind of got yanked out of the ground in a way, like it just trailed a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or something to just kind of complete it, because it just sort of comes to that, with it being like a hanging, like the whole purpose of something sort of being suspended in air, it just was cropped a little abruptly at the bottom. So that was sort of my only like negative critique of it.
Which is interesting, because then it went on to get animated with characters on and the ground story.
Yeah,
which is really cool, because it shows that if you put a lot of effort into a good posable character, you can give the animators a lot to chew on. But it was interesting that they can sort of continued and sort of finished the build in animation in that way.
Yeah.
I feel like I mean, to Holly's point, it does feel a little unfinished on the bottom, but they couldn't have achieved this silhouette unless they had the structural support and center out is. That shape of that pillar probably wouldn't have been able to hold up all the weight, above it if it weren't hanging. So I appreciate it.
Oh, God. And also 10, and it's 10 hours as well. So we don't know that they didn't have something planned to go on the bottom. Could have just run out of time. And that's probably where I would have cut it to.
Well, I mean, what I noticed was, and it is definitely a time management thing and something that we all had to get used to. But, you want to focus on detailing the parts that you want to detail. And that ends up kind of sucking up a lot of time. And then all of a sudden you're left with like, oh, I need to decorate the bottoms of the clouds. Oh, I wish I could have put something on the bottom, but there just isn't the time to do that. So
Kristen and we used to always talk about the detail trail and not going down the detail trail until all the big pieces are done, because that's going to suck up your time for sure. If you're just like spending, I got to make the flowers right over here, but then that portion of the build's not done. Like, I'll go down the detail trail. I have to head off. It has been such a pleasure being here. I hope you all have a good rest of your stream. Love getting to see everybody, and good luck with the rest of the build analyses, everybody.
Great to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you, Randall. Yeah, bye everyone.
Bye, Aaron.
Bye.
All right. So let's see. We've got what do we got next?
We've got Caleb and Jacob's 3 Islands.
Yeah, sorry, it's just the picture is being troublesome. Here we go. Let me get back to that. Oh boy, I sure do love tech stuff. That's my favorite part.
Well, while you're finagling with that, just on the last build, if you look at the giant closely, there is a butt crack showing.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So that along with space nips, there are some little details that are fun if you catch them.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Here we go. So this was Caleb and Jacob's build. I sure wish they would have taken a photo of this so that we could see the front of the
windmill.
Oh,
this is what I'm talking about. The photos have really lacked something, and they did the same thing on our season, and they seem to go to a lot of trouble to make sure that the photos of the contestants and especially the elimination are like beautiful, gorgeous, HD, perfect photos, and not so much focus on the builds, which I guess kind of goes hand in hand with the way that the show is done. Well, but I sure wish we could see better photos.
I felt bad for the photographer when he was there because the large video cameras take precedence over his work.
Yeah,
and he's also not working with the best equipment. As a photographer, I noticed that it was like a prosumer Canon. It was not a professional kit that he was working with. But for better or for worse, I felt that the photographer was extremely challenged when I saw him trying to do his work.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, I know they take a ton of photos, and there isn't any reason why they couldn't given us one with the actual front of the build.
There may be a reason, though. Like they could have certain images that are like reserved for their own media or something, and then maybe these are just kind of the ones they're not using elsewhere that you're allowed to use, possibly.
I feel like if you want really good images on Lego Masters of the builds, you need to look at the moving video beauty shots they do. Like when you're telling your story as a team, they do really there's beautiful crane shots and all that. But you blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about we have another floating island build of a different stripe. This time we've got like multiple islands, which I have to say I found really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from this angle, it's so wild how crooked they look, though. Like,
and from other angles, not as crooked.
Yeah.
I think.
I still don't know how those waterfalls are holding all that weight.
Yeah.
So hats off to,
dang,
absolutely. How did they do it?
I kind of like that they look crooked, actually. It looks a little more organic.
Yeah.
Well, I know
you can see the stress of where those are anchoring in. I mean, I guess I didn't really pick up just how they had connected everything on the show.
Well, I noticed too that these are connected by a string, and I wonder if that's not contributing to that a little bit.
Maybe.
So it looks like the waterfalls are laminated plates, right? Like, and I mean, if you really smash plates together, they can hold a lot of weight.
Yeah,
especially in that, you know, lengthwise format.
Still putting it at a corner, though. I mean, it's like I still can't put my head. That's what I love about Caleb and Jacob is they use the brick in such an interesting way that I never would have thought of.
Well, I really loved this one. This was one of my favorites of the episode. I like the cleanness of it, and and just the concept of the different levels. I mean, that's really tall. I mean, that must have been really, really tall, right? Like,
yeah. I didn't notice until watching the episode that they built the islands upside down.
Oh,
The sides are facing down.
Yeah.
You're
I was
right.
going to say their rock technique is really interesting, actually. I wish we could look at it up close because some of the up close shots that I was watching during the show, it's really pretty cool.
I like the modeling on this island so much. I think their use of slopes is really like nice arrangements and composition on those.
Yeah, and I would definitely like to know how they hung all of that off of those plates. I mean, I think I can see a little bit of a Technic lift arm.
Oh, they're studying the plates into the pinholes of Technic lift arms.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, crazy.
So then the medium azure is less structural and more decorative?
No, it's highly structural because they're using the studs and hammering them right into those pinhole.
It's like a really sandwich over Technic.
Yeah, on both sides. They're sandwiching it.
Did you see what Jen said in the chat?
What was that?
I said, did you see what Jen said in the chat about their islands holding together?
Oh, here we go. Technic axle technique. Ah, very good.
Yes.
Oh, right on, Jen.
Very nice. Very cool. Oh, all right. Let's see here. So, all right, let's moving on. We've got, so this was Natalie and Michelle's build. Now, Natalie and Michelle took home the gold last episode with that outrageous hat. That was just one of the most stunning Lego builds that I've seen in a while, as far as like seeing a real world object and really out there. Bless you.
Well, Brickmaster Amy could not say enough nice things about this build.
Yeah, but then they kind of got dinged about it at the end, and they seemed sort of disappointed with it, which I thought was, meaning Natalie Michelle seemed somewhat disappointed with it. I thought this was beautiful. I loved it.
I feel like we were missing a huge amount from the edit. Like, I don't know what happened, but I thought this was a fantastic build. And then like you said, like, then it got, I mean, I realized that there wasn't, I guess it was just story, right? Like there wasn't enough story coming through on it, but I can't believe how much they got dinged because of that.
I don't know. Macrame
seemed
tells
like a
me
moment.
Story.
It seemed like a moment where maybe we missed the prompt to do something different, right? And then they got dinged on the thing that we didn't hear them get told to do or not do.
The only thing I could think of, Blair, to your point, it was included, so maybe this was the thing, but Jamie had said at the beginning, or Amy said that it can build big. That would be, good too. So that would be the only thing. But otherwise, I love like the detail and how they were able to capture the patterns and the leaves and all of that in that build.
Yeah, the big negative that I heard in the end was that they're saying that just so much of it was covered by the plant life, like that their detail was so hidden. So maybe there was
story.
more.
The story detail was hidden because they had like their little fairy in there that you could barely see, and there wasn't really much. Like it basically looks like a planter. Like it's a gorgeous build, but I mean, I think that shows how much the story point matters in that show.
Well, but this is nothing against the build because I think it's a beautiful build, but I feel like you could kind of say the same thing about Mark and Stevens, like all those big red leaves.
Yeah, but the red leaves are open and skeletal, so you can see through it, and that's why I think they won the show. the challenge for me was the leaves were very large.
That till the end, Moto, but that's okay.
But that's that was Amy's comment. She basically commented that it was all hidden, behind all the like. She was basically saying that that you got to leave some, or maybe it was Jamie's. One of them said there needs to be a little bit of breathing room, between the details, so you can kind of find find things in it.
Well, I think it's interesting, but because there has to be this balance between can you see a big story when you first look at it, or do you actually have to get up close to see the story? Like, I think Dave and Richard's build was like you could stand back and you see that whole story, where with these other some of the other ones, you really had to kind of get in there and hope that the camera was going to capture what you were hoping to capture in it.
Right.
Just overall,
the hidden world idea didn't quite work as well with this concept, just for the format. I think that it works great for something like, especially at a convention where there's really bright lights and then you kind of get drawn into the inside of a build. But this is just an instance where we don't have the luxury, right? And the show doesn't have the luxury of diving in, it's got to be a little bit more worn on the outside, where the flashiness has to be there, or at least something to draw your eye in. Whereas this had that beautiful hidden world element to it. Like you look at it, especially in this photograph, and you're like, oh, it's a hanging planter. And you really can't see that magical center,
Yeah. But it was such a good idea for the hanging brick challenge. That's the kind of bummer part of it. Is like, that's brilliant, and it's a really good build. And it's kind of hard to believe sometimes that the story aspect is so weighted, when they're decisions.
Well, the builds are fantastic, and I think it just shows you how close the margins are between all of these builds and all of these teams. The talent is like so packed that you're seeing like going from top to bottom and all this zigzagging back and forth throughout the challenge, throughout the series.
And don't get me wrong, I wasn't like saying anything negative about the other one. I just meant there was this same sort of feeling of for me, I found really giant red leaves. Like that's what I was looking at. Like I don't want to say distracting, but they were the thing that caught my attention the first. And I felt so wrapped up in looking at that part of it that maybe I, wasn't able to look a little bit closer.
I think it's okay to give critical response to pieces. We know that these are all really highly, highly skilled builders with great design sense. And as AFALs, as designers of pieces, I think it's okay to say this part worked less well. I mean, for me, that's partly not ripping on things, but that's partly the excitement of a show like Lego Masters, is saying what worked better and what didn't, and what if I could do that. So I'm not so afraid of giving a critical response to a piece, because I'm not being critical of the builder. I know the builders are all great and giving their all.
Yeah, I'm with Jen though. I want that. I would like hang Natalie and Michelle's planter like in my house. It was a really cool.
Yes,
oh, absolutely,
absolutely. All right. This was Lauren and Brian's. This is just.
There's nothing hidden here, right? Like you see it right away.
Again, this is what I meant by like big story statement right out of the box, right? Like you can see that from a mile away, big story statement. And I find that was one of the hardest parts about being on the show, is creating that balance. Like how much detail is too much detail, how close up is too close up, how big of a story can you tell from a distance. So, Cara, what do you think about this one?
I think this one is really polished. And when you think about the requirement to have this 360 storytelling, this one really nailed it. I mean, the cloud is just fluffy. That sunburst is perfect. It looks complete and done, and like a really great story. And it just draws you in.
Yeah, and I love the color combos. Are really great. That purple and pink and orange, just so good.
And modeling those clouds that's subtle work to do on a tight schedule.
It's also built sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Those are built sideways. Those big horns coming off the side. And I'm assuming a sort of Lowell sphere type of for the clouds.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Really.
Yeah,
It's just great.
I particularly like that gradation of colors, like you were saying, that goes into the sun at the bottom. I thought that was a really good technique that they used.
Yeah, it's and I wish we had a picture of the other side so you could see the other figure, but their character work is really great as well.
And modeling those curves of the two horns, like those are smooth curves done with big blocky pieces.
Yeah, and those aren't those energy blasts coming from the staffs to create the sun? Wasn't that the story?
Yes, that's what the story was.
Yeah. Okay.
So great. So great. Brian,
you talked about a rainbow challenge, man. This thing is like winner chicken dinner.
Brian, as a Nintendo fan, do you see a little Zelda in this one? What do you think?
I see a little magic, floating around in there. I will agree with the judges though that the faces could have used like a little bit more life to them. They look like two dolls on top rather than two like fairies. Maybe just a different expression or something. Maybe it's just the eyes being like the little beads. Just a little something else for me. But other than that, the clouds on here, that is like grade A clouds. Like that's how you do them right there. Like that's like I think of the BB-8 set where you're building basically a Technic frame and then you're building side. So like it all worked wonderfully.
Yeah, it's and this is one where actually the colored lights kind of add to the photo. I gotta say, all of that blue on the cloud faces really shows the dimension of that. I really enjoyed this one a lot. All right, let's see. All right, so this is Jen and Susan's, but I don't know. Oh, Randall, sorry. Do we have to say goodbye
after this one?
Oh, after this one. Okay. And I'm sitting here going, hey Jen, do you want to come on and talk about your build?
Yeah, Jen, come
If
on.
so, I can shoot you an invite real quick if that's something that you'd like to know to do. Let us know in the chat, and we can absolutely do that. And Jen did mention in the last build, this is all made from trans clear, like yellow bricks. They're really gorgeous.
That's probably a place in which that orange light that Blair was talking about did a good thing for the build.
Yeah. So was this like clear?
Yeah.
So that's just a yellow light?
Yeah, it looks like
I think it's a mix of clear and yellow pieces.
Correct. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see yellow parts.
Wow, very cool. Sorry, I'm over here in my emails trying to get Jen an invitation if she wants to hop on.
Shane Levin is putting out some great puns there.
Boy, y'all really doing it with the puns today.
That's Shane's job.
That wins an award.
Okay, sorry everybody. Give me 1 second while I'm going to do this.
Is it bad form of me to point out those are not cirrus clouds?
Yeah.
Yes, Holly.
We know they're not.
Nimbus, cumulonimbus.
Oh, I had to say that recently, and
You had to say cumulonimbus?
Yes, and it was upsetting to say the least. Okay, sorry. Real quick, everybody, please talk amongst yourselves while I do this.
Blair, can I show my minifig for today while you're doing that?
Oh yeah,
sure.
Minifigs.
Awesome. So I got a gift pack from 9 Brick City, Alyssa, and she gave me 2 poly bags for minifigures, but the Looney Tunes one is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's one that I needed for my Looney Tune collection.
Love it.
I used to have
Fantastic.
Taz lunchbox and thermos.
But yeah, just the spinning motion, the printed elements. I didn't realize how incredible these Looney Tunes CMFs are. This is fantastic.
They're really good.
They're awesome.
Oh, sorry, let me give you the big screen, Moto. There you go.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm trying to do 6 things at once here.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Taz.
Well, what's the spinning function? Is there a play function on this one?
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah, they put a slider on the bottom so you can put it on the
On the
surface
ground
and
and spin it. Yep.
spin it.
And you can
And
see
it does come with an optional dealy bop, but I'm not going to use it. I just
Yeah, really,
spin it
why?
too much.
You know, I want some more excited dealy bobs or exciting like minifig stands, the little black with 4 studs.
Yeah, well, you know what's great for Taz?
Yeah,
Put out a more exciting shape.
You know what's great for Taz is this.
Yeah.
Ninjutsu thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty cool. All right. So I sent the message. She's got 2 invites here. Now, do you want to wait? Do you need to run, Randall, or do you want to wait for Jen to arrive? What do you want to do?
I'll come and wait for Jen. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I know you have plans, so I don't want to keep you from your plans.
Well, I have a question while Jen is coming on. Blair, can you talk about your hat a little bit?
Yeah, so while I was fighting Puppet Me for screen supremacy, I decided to make a hat in honor of the episode. So just a couple things hanging, the spider hanging, and the reverse. My Jack and the Beanstalk piece coming off the top here.
Right on.
I just, as someone who had watched Australia and had plans for this show, I know Moto talked about it in an interview as well, thinking about doing stuff with motion, doing maybe a mobile or something. I was really excited for this challenge. I was really hoping to see people really push the envelope, and I had really hoped to give my try at it. And I don't know, it's such a cool challenge. And it's something that, we can do at home. We're just not usually prompted to build in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, we've talked about it for some conventions even, but the cost of hanging wires and cabling from the convention hall was so high that it just wasn't worth it. Because you had to pay for each installation. Yeah,
here's a tip for your convention. If you find people like me who work at a lighting rental place, they'll have bases and pipes, and you can work from the ground up rather than like 30 foot in the ceiling down. And then you can do it all yourself, and you don't need to hire a crew from the convention center.
Yeah, that would be the way to do it, because we wanted to do it especially for space, to do some flying spaceships. And the mobile that I had planned was like a floating way station with like steampunk airships going around, and wanted to incorporate using some motorized pieces to actually get the mobile to go by adding real.
I want to see that piece.
Maybe eventually. Do you want to help me get a frame for it, and then we'll hook it up for next convention?
All right.
Brian, did you and Nick do a?
Yeah, I was going to say airships is a thing.
Yes, we did do airships, and this one was a real struggle, I think. For me, because we're only working with a certain amount of pieces for each of us. So we went with the chat suggestion of airships, steampunk, to kind of roll with, and then have that as a basis for what we did. I'll share my screen here so you can take a look at that. But we each built an airship that was inspired by the colors kind of blue and yellow. So Nick, and it was hanging from a red lanyard. So
there you go.
Nice. Nick built a traditional looking, balloon with the whatever. And he said I should do like a quadcopter, and I'm like, all right, I'll work with that. But there's no like spinning blades. There's not 4 of them to make like a quadcopter. So we each went with like a pink character, leading the way across the globe to make an epic journey. So that's what we came up with. I tried doing like steam stacks in the back of mine over here.
Yeah.
I'm like, steampunk. All right, steam stacks. There we go. Good.
Very nice.
They're so fun.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, look who's here. It's Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hey.
It's great to see you. How are you?
When one master leaves, another one joins. It's a conservation of masters. Conservation of masters.
Passing the scepter.
Wow, everyone has huge numbers of drawers.
Yeah.
So jealous.
Super jealous of the drawers. All right, well, let's take a look. So, Randall, do you need to skedaddle, or how you doing?
No, let's talk about Jen's. I'd love to talk about this while she's on, and then I can bounce.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for staying and hanging out with us. Super appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was Jen and Susan's build, and Jen, do you want to talk a little bit about like the story behind it and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. My internet is acting up just a little bit, so let me know if you can't hear me. How's my audio?
So there's a teeny bit of cutting out, but but we can still understand you for the moment. So yeah.
All right. So if it cuts out, then I'm gonna redo I'll relocate and we can talk about Randall, and then we'll come back to me when I get better.
Okay.
So the story here was a birthday party, and our little birthday girl, she's 8, is all ready for the party, and it's right before it's about to begin, and she is imagining in her tree house before her friends come to hang out with her what it would be like if her birthday balloons allowed her to fly. And so this whole tree, her whole favorite place, her tree house, is floating up in the air, just floating away. And it's the first time I've ever built a brick built figure, and so I was really proud of that. And I figured out these modified Lowell Sphere balloons.
They're
on
beautiful.
The show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Nice.
Even Jamie commented on the technique for that, and so I was really honored. And there was a lot of like little things in here that I just loved. I love the tree. I loved the tree roots. We had extra things that we were going to throw on that we ran out of time for. So our build only ended up being one-sided, which was something they criticized us for, which was legit. That's true. Our little squirrel didn't end up on there. Our little bird didn't end up on there. So we had like little scenes that were going to go around the tree, and that Clockzilla, man, that clock that just really eats into your build time.
Every time.
That's so funny that you said squirrel, because I was like, oh, I just needed like a squirrel on the back. I said it out loud. It's so true.
I also want to point out here, because I can pull in really close. This right here, this is very daring. as somebody who's like put together a lot of like trees and tried to hold them together with like cylinders, I'm impressed by the fortitude of your build, because that's a tough connection.
Wow.
Well, it has a bar inside.
It has a bar inside.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
See, I noticed the tree trunk, the main portion of the tree, is studs out on all sides. Can you talk about your structure and how this was suspended? I mean, I know it's suspended from the one brick, but it seems like you must have some Technic or something on the inside of this.
Yeah, we used Technic frame inside. So I had purchased Lego and had Lego sets sent to my hotel room, and I was studying constantly when I was not filming. And one of the structures that I built was Grogu, the child from the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda to some. And so that structure inside allowed building out 4 ways, studs out. And so I basically made a Technic frame inside, and we built our tree out from the middle, hollow.
Awesome. Well, now I've surprised you with the full screen. Can you show us your Wonder Woman mosaics in the back? We're big fans of mosaic here. Oh, gorgeous.
That's perfect.
Wow, really, really
that.
cool. And I noticed
So
you have multiples.
Well, this is the first one I created, and I'm playing around right now with different kinds of framing to see what looks better, how to hang it up on a wall. And so
very nice.
Just different studies of my frame.
And Brian is very jealous of your giant Mario in the background. I can tell you that without even asking him, because I know that he is. Did you build that?
I did.
Wow.
Brian has seen Mario before.
Yes. Yeah. That is incredible. Wow.
Yeah, one day I'll have one of similar magnitude. We'll see.
Very cool. Awesome.
Oh, and maybe you've talked about this before, but I can't help but notice on your right behind you, all those drawers are separated by color, not by type.
So this side is all color. This is all type.
Oh,
okay.
And do they fight?
Sometimes.
I feel like we're always going like we do by type, but then when we do a mock, we separate by color for that mock, and then it has to somehow go back into type, and there's a chaos period in between.
Mm-hmm.
I need both, and so that's why I actually have 2 sections where I use both. So I will have like one drawer of snot back here, but I also have random snot in the specific color, so that when I'm building with just a color, I have available parts. And
I like
that's so easy. All you have to do is have 2 complete Lego collections.
That's simple.
Hey, well, I know Randall has to go, but thank you so much, Randall, for coming on and hanging out with us today, and look forward to having you on again next week so we can talk a little bit more about your Lego journey and how you started in the hobby and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for jumping on.
Absolutely. Had a lot of fun. Nice to see you, Jen and Moto. Nice to meet the rest of y'all too. Had a ball.
Good to see you, Randall.
bye, Randall.
See you later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All right. So so I asked Randall this before, Jen. I'm curious, was there a particular build in this challenge that when you because we've talked about this in the past, when you look up and you're just like, oh, that build across the room is outrageous, and that is one that we're going to have to look out for. Like for us on episode 1, it was like Aaron's Ferris wheel, like that giant thing. Like I knew immediately, I was like, okay, that is like, how are we possibly going to be able to do that? And it spurs you on, right? To try and build better. Was there any build or builds in this particular episode that were like that for you?
Yeah, so we were all the way in the back by Randall and Sarita. And so when we're running to the brick pit, where we get to run past everybody, and I'm always like stopping and looking as I'm going, right? That's amazing. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So I just love looking at everybody else's builds. Now, of course, Zach and Wayne across the room had this huge frame go up right away, totally intimidating the rest of us. But if we don't let that get to us. None of us did. We all knew that we had something special to bring. And so it absolutely spurs us to bring our A game. But dude, I never worried about trying to beat the other team. We just all wanted to do our best, and we all wanted each other to do their best. And so Natalie and Michelle, their planter looked really cool while they were building it, just from that macrame. Oh my goodness, like that was just astounding. And then Brian and Lauren, their clouds were going up pretty quick, and then that and because I was working on Lowell Sphere myself, I really had a lot of appreciation for how smooth his clouds were looking and how beautiful and they were coming. And then Richard and Dave, their Beanstalk was just awesome and huge right from the beginning too. And so there were so many builds that looked so fantastic. And then of course you've got your 2 islands, and just it's all intimidating. They're all amazing.
Right.
I'm curious. It's a little distraction from specifically the pieces, but something we haven't talked about very much. I'm interested, Moto and Jen, what are your thoughts about the table lottery and what that adds or takes away from a particular challenge?
Well, now first because people don't know what that means. So let's explain that first. So and I'm assuming it was the same for y'all, but like every episode, because I think they're not allowed to talk about it, but we're out of contract now, so we can.
We can talk about it.
But they would, we would draw lots to figure out what table we were going to be at. So we were at a different table every time to make it fairer, so that like one person wasn't always right by the brick pit while somebody else was having to like jog across the.
It's a difference of like 60 feet.
That's still significant.
That's
a lot. Yeah.
That is significant, yeah.
Yeah, so
although I feel like Moto must have never been near the brick pit, because every episode you just see him hauling through there.
Yeah, so how was that?
Flying.
For me, it made a difference in my choices of how to be at the brick pit and what to do while I was there.
I never had the luxury of being close.
Really? So I got lottery both close and far, and it really stank because I was in dress shoes, not tennis shoes. Not my shoes. Anyway, so running back and forth, you definitely want to load up at the brick pit, but you only have a limited number of trays. So one thing I would do at the table was take my full tray, and flip it onto the table so that now my brick was all over the table, so that I could go back and get a full tray again.
Wow.
So yes, you have to strategize the distance. But it's part of it. Everybody had to do that.
Right.
You should have worn a lab coat, Jen.
All right, friends. So we have come to that moment in the episode when we are going to talk about who won and who had to go home. So if you have tuned into this point and for some reason still don't didn't see the episode and you don't want to know this part of it, now is the time. There's your major spoiler alert.
Go have cookie time.
Yes. So let us take a look at the winning build. And that was Mark and Steven's Floating Islands build. We've already, talked about this at length. And, it's funny now that I'm looking at it more, that top little building has such a wonderful sort of Mary Blair kind of small world feeling to it.
It's kind of funny, Flynn. When I saw this build, I was out of town all week, so I just watched it last night, and I was just thinking I bet Flynn was all about this, because this is kind of exactly that conversation we've had about bring castles back, but we like that fantasy aspect of it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think this is that realm where we are, right? Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful build, and their use of and this is something that I feel like they did that kind of sets theirs apart from the one Caleb and Jacob did, but their use of the green, the going down the rocks, having that trailing the trailing plants.
And some color variation throughout the rocks too, not just the green, but even just in the rocks, there's some variation.
Right.
Yeah.
Light and dark gray. I mean, both valid building techniques, but yes, I do like the sort of more organicness of the sharing of colors here. Really great. Now, what string is that?
Chains, maybe?
No,
it's just strings with studs.
It's just
really?
strings with studs.
It's just the black strings, but they're being
right. Okay.
They're being color shifted by the light.
Yeah, it's
Got
the
it.
light.
Got it.
Because you can see the shape, you can kind of see some variation in them.
Yeah.
I do like the little pine cone looking complementary hanging environment things as well.
Like these?
Yeah, they're incredible too.
My son hasn't seen this one yet. He's obsessed with gnomes, so he's going to be all about this. Yeah.
Very nice.
I just love that, while I was hoping that more people would do stuff with motion, it is a really tough challenge to bring that element into. It's very risky. 10 hours. I know I was really surprised at the time limit for this one. But that there's so many different suspended elements. It brings that motion in, even if it's not in motion, that it has the potential for motion. Like if that gnome village was caught in a windstorm, you can just see all of those things flying all over the place. And so this sort of potential energy of this piece, especially in the 360 format, was really great.
Well, that's an interesting question, Jen. Would you guys have been allowed to touch the model and give it a spin on the wire when you were displaying it, or did they prefer it just to be hanging still?
Oh, I see.
They wanted it a standalone presentation, and ours kept spinning to the more bland side, and so we kept touching and poking at it, and that was actually a criticism that we got. So I think they would have allowed a motion piece like that to happen, but they wanted it to stand alone. It would have been fun to poke at stuff.
Sorry, you can.
That was one of the things that really impressed me about Caleb and Jacob's build is they actually had the moving windmill fans. And I thought that was a really brave, thing to do, to like add motion into something that was already, a fear of imbalance, right?
I'm just so relieved nothing fell and broke.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure they were hoping that was going to happen.
I know, right? Like, I'm sure that was the intent of the challenge, is they were surely expecting something to crash and burn, but I'm just so relieved that it didn't happen to anybody.
Yep.
Caleb actually commented on his windmill because of the constant motion. It actually created a constant spin, a slow spin in their build. And so that's actually kind of cool.
Very nice. Very cool. All right. So, and now we are going to talk about who went home. And this was a bummer. It's always a bummer when we have to see who went home. And that was Randall and Cyrita. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do an exit interview with them earlier this week. And I have to say that's one of the things I've been impressed with is just everybody's very. I don't know. I think we all go through this, but like when you get sent home, there's this moment of I don't know, sort of like reckoning with yourself. And sort of like, wow, well, we really did our best, but I can see that, where this or that thing may have been the thing that we got dinged on. And I can appreciate that. And I feel like everybody's had a very good attitude about that kind of thing, like being able to look critically at their work.
I'd be interested to hear from our panelists on that, but I got to say it took me a while to let go of what I saw as I never really felt like I failed on Lego Masters, but I definitely made some choices that I would have made otherwise, in retrospect. I would have made this stronger, I would have made this faster, and it took me a while to let that go. And where I came to was we did the very best we could every episode with all of the things that were happening.
For sure.
Yep.
And it's always, I'm interested, and of course we can talk a little bit more about this with Randall next week when we talk about it, but just that process of going back and sort of examining, what you did. Moto, what was your, like, when you look back at your experience, what was your sort of like take on looking at it afterwards? Because you're pretty chill about self-criticism. You have a very zen attitude when it comes to stuff like that. So how was that for you?
I told you guys, I think is really fortunate that ours spectacularly, just destroyed itself completely and utterly. So I mean that's just a comprehensive failure. And so it's obvious that you didn't meet the challenge and you go home. That's why that's why it was like I don't know what to say, like a good way to go out.
Sure.
It's just intuitively obvious. There's not a lot of judging criticism you can make because the thing was supposed to hold together and it didn't.
So it was very objective final destination.
Yeah.
So you didn't just stare deeply into the camera and say, we were robbed.
No. I would say it was intuitively obvious that we were going to leave the minute that split happened. But, barring
no less
from
devastating,
others,
right?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened. And it's like, okay, we're going home. It's cool. I can write a good way to leave, and did so appropriately in my head. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I would say definitely with the hat. We talked about a number of different building techniques. I definitely would have gone with a different way than the pure mixel strategy, for sure. That was my proposal: is to do more of a Technic and laminated plate-based brim and head structure. But that's not the way we went.
So Jen,
one thing I would do is that building shape challenge. I would totally, I'd come at that totally a different way at this point.
Yeah, so that's interesting too. Like looking back, is there? I mean, you just mentioned yours, but looking back, Jen, of the builds that we've seen of yours so far, was there anything where you're like, oh man, if I could have just done that thing, or I would have done this differently? Was there a particular build where you were just like, oh man, I wish we would have done X?
So many builds, all of them, yes, but. Particularly my first build, the float, I really did not do what I wanted to do with that. But looking back, I don't regret that, because it really lit a fire under us to push us for the following episodes. It changed how we did our time management. It changed how we divided tasks. That first episode was a real lesson, and I'm really glad that I had that. But if I were to build it now, it would be amazing, and it would take like 4 months. So yes, there's so many things I would change. But that's part of the show. What do you do with this time amount? And that's it. And so you don't get to see the best of everybody's skill level. You only get to see what they can do in 10 hours.
Right.
Exactly. And I think that's a really, really, really important thing for people to remember. And I know I've mentioned this before, but it's inevitable. Any reality show, you're always going to have those armchair people who are like, I could have done better, and that I could have done whatever. And I was like, well, really? Because, and we talk about this frequently, but, there's also 1,000 other things going on that the audience doesn't see, like cameras flying around, you people coming up and asking you questions.
Craft services may have run out of gummy bears.
Craft services may have run out of gummy bears. Craft services, at least on our season,
we get gummy bears.
You so much lunch that you can barely like walk back into the room after lunch. Like just trying to like stay awake was an effort. But yeah, that's a really great point, Jen, is that it isn't a lot of times people being able to show 100% what they can do. It's showing what they can do under time pressure.
Yeah, and like Randall and Sarita, I feel, like you said, it's a bummer anytime somebody has to go home, but I feel like it was something I could kind of see catching up to them, was that, while they're fantastic builders and great storytellers, and, I've been watching them for a while now, the technical aspect is something that you have to balance that in with your scale and with your storytelling. There's so many things where, maybe they were able to come up with the scale, but maybe the color blocking was lacking, or maybe they were able to come up with the details, but the scale was lacking. And like getting that balance is so critical and difficult. Like you said, getting that sphere that big and that size was incredible for the amount of time, and getting it to bind together, obviously like a huge undertaking. You start to lose out in that detail, right? But I'm a person where, that detail trail is the danger zone, right? Like I can spend, a couple days getting a mock up to 2.5 feet. And then I could spend 6 months, like you said, Jen, right? Like I could spend months focusing on every little tiny tidbit. And so trying to figure out that time management and getting all those things together when your time constraints are getting tighter and the expectations are getting larger, it's an incredible feat, an incredible challenge. I mean, it's so fantastic to see people overcome that. So.
Well, and so like I know how hard it was to work in a 10 or a 12-hour time frame. Now, Brian, I got to hand it to you and Nick for doing these day after builds where you're like, we have an hour, or however long you give yourselves, which would, I would not be able to do that. Now, granted, you are definitely like, able to build at a smaller scale because you don't have people there going, build big. But do you, how did you, especially being somebody, Brian, who has been more of a set builder up to this point, right? Like mocks are still fairly new to you. How do you find that time challenge, such a tiny truncated frame?
No, the challenge for me is more so waking up at 10 a.m. Eastern to actually make the stream. Honestly, the time. I mean, I'm sure if I were on the show, it would be a lot different. But the time that we have right now, I find myself being pretty confident with where I'm at because I'm also working with a very limited set of parts with Nick. So we have the same exact parts because Nick has drawers like all the rest of you. I got Kirby. It's not building, right? So we work with what we got, and that kind of sets the expectations a lot in check, right? Instead of like having everything at your disposal and then, oh, why didn't you think of this? Why didn't you think of that? Well, my rotors on my quadcopter are 1x6s because I have no other parts. That's it, you know? So it also forces you to kind of work with what you have and use that imagination in a much different way than if you had everything at your disposal at all times. So it's that much more difficult. As difficult as it is for me and Nick to work with what we got, there's also that much more expectations when you do have millions of bricks to work with and you're very overwhelmed on that time clock. And especially if you and your teammate aren't on like a similar train of thought of an idea out the get where you're like, okay, I'll try to work with it. Like steampunk for me, I'm like, I'm not a steampunk guy. I get it. But you know, you got to work with it. You just got to communicate and hope for the best.
You make a really good point about scarcity of parts, and it's something that I've thought was really brilliant about mock builders for a really long time is not only are you, like, let's say you're a painter and you have your colors of paint. I know painters don't have unlimited bricks, but maybe there's more in those paint tubes than we have in our drawers here, right? And how many times do you have to change your mock because you didn't have the part in the right color, in the right quantity, where you can find it? I think being able to design under those constraints, it's kind of opposite of Lego Masters, but designing with limited parts is a major skill.
I really enjoy it actually. Like in doing camps this summer, you know, because we were doing camps for underprivileged kids, we were providing the sets for them, like the creative boxes for them. And then basically my job was to come up with, you know, instructional designs from that box of parts. And I thoroughly enjoyed it actually. Like I really appreciate having those limitations where it's not like, because you could spend all day like hunting for parts. It's really nice to just have your palette in front of you and just focus on what you have.
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons I like building with rare colors, you know, is that you have a limited parts palette. Not only does it provide you a challenge, but it also sort of helps hone your imagination, you know, because if you're like, I can build with any Lego brick, it's like, well, that's a lot to think about. But if you're like, I want to build in pink and purple, it's like, okay, well, I only have these couple thousand elements to work with. And so it can hone you. And so the being on the show, it's both the antithesis of that and also somewhat similar in that, well, now you have unlimited bricks in a way, but you also have a limited type of brick. So you're not going to find your bionicle seed part. And so there's an incredible amount of adjusting that each contestant has to go through to be able to perform under those conditions, for sure.
Right. And what were you going to say, Jen?
I think being able to pivot and use different pieces creatively was an essential skill that I used on Lego Masters. You think we have unlimited parts, but things would run out and then you weren't expecting things to run out. And so now you have to use what color is left. You have to use what parts are left. And because we have all been building that way anyway, and practicing with scarcity of parts in a way, that is a skill you absolutely need for Lego Masters.
For sure.
See, I know we're coming in on for a landing on the episode, but I'm very curious, Jen, as we're all on the edge of our seats for the next episode that's going to happen in about 4 years, all the stuff in between. So if you can take a step back in your brain, you've just finished this challenge. You made this piece. You don't know what's coming next. Where was your head at going into the next challenge? Like, did you have an idea of what it might be, or like just happy for some sleep?
Honestly, I was still looking back at the past challenge, grieving the loss of my friends Randall and Sarita, and I didn't like get my head straight and ready until I was lined up outside the doors ready to enter the new challenge. So I don't even think about the new challenge until I'm there, because there's no way to plan. You have no clue what's coming at you.
And you can make yourself crazy.
Yeah. So I'm just processing in the moment, allowing myself to feel what was happening. And so Randall and Sarita being sent home was a bummer. I loved those two, and they're fantastic people. And but their time in the sandbox was over, and that's kind of how I look at it. Your mom calls you to go home at different points, and you have to leave your friends, right? Time to go home. Oh, and so I'm just living in the moment, and so allowing myself to feel all the feels, so that when I did go to the next challenge, my head could be clear.
Well, that's definitely something I would love to talk about, because we will be doing a stream coming up soon with a lot of people from season 1 and season 2. And one of the things I talked to Randall and Sarita about in the exit interview I did with them was that challenge of being creatively diverse in a very truncated period of time. Like for me, I found it extremely difficult because I get so involved in the creative process for me to just pivot from doing a build that's this thing and then processing somebody getting sent home and then knowing the next day I'm going to have to pivot to an entirely different idea. And I think especially, it was especially in your season where we went from an episode that was about making something that would fall apart to the very next episode of making something that wouldn't fall apart. And that's such like a quick, like whiplash creative stretch. But that is definitely something that we will talk about in the future, because I'm interested to hear other people's takes. Now, their take on it, Randall and Sarita's take, was that it was easy for them because in what they do in their everyday lives is a lot about pivoting from project to project to project, where I know, at least for me, it was a difficult process. So, but anyway, I wanted to thank everybody so much for coming and hanging out with us today. Thank you to all of our regular cast members, our irregular cast members, our sometimes cast members, and our special guests who, and surprise guests who popped in. Like, wow, what a fun. That's actually the first time I've ever been able to do that. Be like, hey, you're in the chat. Come join the thing. And you can see that I'm inexperienced with it because it took me like 30 minutes just to like figure out like how to send the invite. So there you go. But thank you, Moto and Holly and Cara, Brian, Jen, and Blair. Thank you to Aaron. Thank you to Randall for stopping by. I always enjoy these shows where we can sort of like break everything down and talk about it from lots of different angles, from being on the show, having used to be being on the show, and as observers from different styles of building and different ways. I just think it's a fascinating way to break these episodes down. So.
Flynn, I know we have a show and I know we've done a couple 100+ episodes, but I got to say, as a Lego fan, as an AFOL, how exciting is it right now to talk to all of you on the screen and talk about Lego for all this time? It's so fun. It's like some of my favorite parts of a convention, and we do it every Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so fun. We forgot our minifigs. Can we sign off with our minifigs?
Yeah, we usually do. It has sort of turned out being that usually happens at the end because forgetfulness. Yeah. But yeah, let's do our fave minifigs real quick. Who's ready? I guess Blair is, since he suggested it.
I just grabbed one near me.
I have a very fun Rosalind.
Oh, I love her leg paintings. Very cool.
A cool series, amazing outfits. Nothing negative I can say. Yeah, amazing hair. Nothing bad I can say about the elves.
Very cool.
Except that I want more.
Yes.
More elves.
Holly, what have you got for us?
I've got this little guy from the BAM at the Lego store. The little
blue pug.
Blue pug. And of course he even has like the little The little tail.
Oh,
Cute.
very cute. Very cute.
Those are still available. Well, they were at my Lego store anyway. If anybody's looking for those,
They're not at Hillsdale, I can tell you that.
oh dang!
Oh, bummer. Okay, Cara, what do you got for us?
I have my friend's sig fig.
Oh, superhero girl.
Superhero girl. She's very preppy. She's got collar and she's got her awesome. Turn it this way.
She's got some
super
sassy
cell
eyebrows,
phone.
too.
And she's got fabulous liquid eyeliner.
Very
Oh
nice.
yeah, she is. What did the kids say? On fleek.
Uh,
Probably shouldn't say anything like that because I'm.
I was gonna say, are they still saying that? I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Thing.
Sports ball.
Moto, you got something for us?
Yep, we covered it. Boom.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We got Taz. I forgot about that. I saw Brian like running to grab something. So I'm assuming that means he has something to show us.
Yeah, one of my favorite figures from the video line is the Kraken drummer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
nice.
that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah.
August 1st in the U.S. Get ready, everyone.
I'm ready.
I
Say,
know.
those out now?
No, I'm
ready. Not
I'm
yet.
so excited for the
Brian's flexing over there. Is what's
finally
happening.
show up. Brian, sorry, Jen, do you have? Were you able to grab something at last second?
Yeah, my favorite fig right now is actually Susan's new figure. She just designed this logo.
Ah,
And so it's a play on the vegan logo, and she used a Lego plant to make it. And so this is her, and I'm just loving this figure.
that's so cute.
That's
Awesome.
incredible.
That's awesome.
I want a Lego vegan shirt now for my minifig. That's
I was gonna
awesome.
say you need that.
Same.
I
Okay,
have one.
do you?
Yep.
We have ones. All right.
Yep.
Let's see what we got.
I have the official Clicky's going to help out here.
Nice.
The official Jason Momoa minifigure with frosted tips. Look at that.
Yeah.
And
Okay, he's Aquaman.
and mine is a throwback, very far back. Well, not that far back, but the character is.
Oh.
I have E.T.
Yeah.
from the Lego Dimension set.
Found home.
Nice.
One of the more terrifying minifigs, in my opinion, but still really fun.
Ow.
I know. There you go. That is mine for today. I know. I actually collect like celebrity minifigs. Is one of my favorite things to do.
He kind of looks like Curious George meets Yoda.
And on that note, friends,
Curious Yoda.
thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today. We will be back. I'll be back on Tuesday with the Raid Train, raising some more money for the American Cancer Society. We will be back on Wednesday at 10 a.m. with a show that will either be a history of or a tips and tricks. We're still getting it together to decide which one that will be, but we will be bringing you one of those two things on Wednesday. So thanks again, everybody on the panel, for joining, all of our guests, surprise guests, additional guests, semi-regular, irregular guests,
Super regular guests.
super regular guests.
Super
I
regular.
will say, until next time, don't forget to stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, wear that mask when and where you still need to, get that vaccine as soon as you can, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Happy
Bye.
building.
Bye.